Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margot Donahue and Sonia Mansfield talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy.
Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margot Donahue, and my cohort in creepitude, as always, is the amazing Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. And y'all, it's the dog days of summer. Things are kind of going wiggity whack. As the kids in sang that song, jump, jump, jump. You know, jump.
Wiggity, 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 whack.
What were they called? Do you remember the name of that group?
Crisscross.
Crisscross. It's gone wiggity whack with our schedules. So Sonia actually had to work in the office this week.
What?
We had a lot going on. So we're going to be replaying an Elvis episode that we did a couple of years ago. It's a good compliment to have because we did Colonel Tom Parker last week. We got a lot of great responses. So I thought this would be fun to play the Elvis again because let's remember Elvis was a creep too. Very good and sufficient reason. But I thought like this would be a good time to mention some places you can, delve into Elvis paraphernalia. Before that, I just wanted to say this because I said to Sonia, you could find us in all the places. We have a Facebook group and all that stuff. You'll hear it in the top of the show. Sonia, Paramount is going to be producing a special about Louis C.K.'s comeback.
What? What?
I just found this on Twitter.
Paramount. But let's all go on about cancel culture then.
Yes. Run by Brian Robbins, good friend of Dan Schneider, or they were good friends for a long time. Runs Paramount, which, by the way, is the motion picture company that put out Top Gun, which will be the movie that we're going to be talking about this weekend on Dorking Out. It all comes together in weird ways. It's a big cacophony, you guys. So we're going to be talking about Top Gun this weekend, Maverick, for Dorking Out. But we wanted to talk about Elvis. First, I wanted to mention that I really enjoyed the Elvis movie, the Baz Luhrmann movie with Austin Butler. I also kind of wanted to mention that there was this Elvis 2005 movie with Jonathan Rhys-Meyers. So it was really, really good. If you're into more Elvis stuff that you want to put into your brain hole, I suggest checking that out. Also, I tried watching Elvis and Nixon. It's with Michael Shannon as Elvis.
I love it. I tried.
I really tried. And Kevin Spacey is Nixon. And once I realized it was Kevin Spacey, I pieced out.
Oh, well.
And then there's a TV series that was on CMT, just on Amazon. You can stream it and you could pay for it. And it's really good. And it's called Sun Records. And it's a long series about the creation of Sun Records. And if you're interested in all that stuff, it's a great thing to kind of check out. And it's young baby Elvis before he became the creep that he would become.
Is it a documentary series?
No. It's got a whole cast. It's got the guy. Let me look this up right now. Sun Records. It's Chad Michael Murray.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it has a few other people, like nobody like super famous, but they're really good. Billy Gardell plays Colonel Tom Parker, and he's probably my favorite Tom Parker of all the Tom Parkers that I've taken in. And I thought that was really, really good. If you want to check out, they go back to like Rocket 88, Ike Turner, before he met Tina Turner. That's another creep we'll talk about one day. There's all kinds of creeps in the culture. So we'll be talking about that one day. So I thought that would be something kind of interesting if you're looking for that kind of stuff. But anyway, like I said, it's just turned into a crazy week, and we thought maybe it would be more interesting. We'll put out the Elvis episode again. We'll give you a new episode next week.
Yes.
Working out, we are going to be talking about Maverick. I have to say, I really loved it. Just a spoiler, I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, me too.
Tom Cruise is a great movie star. A big weirdo.
He really is. Huge weirdo.
Huge weirdo. But a great movie star. So that'll be on this weekend.
Yes.
But we want to thank you all so much for listening to the show. We're going to go right into our Elvis episode. Be good. Be kind, everybody. The usual stuff. Don't be a creep.
A creep.
Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. So we're going to rock and roll all night and party every day with this episode.
I really should have done a little brushing up on my knowledge for this one, but I'm nothing but a hound dog.
That's actually a real Elvis song. I was talking about Kiss there. But
I'm going to put on my blue suede shoes.
there you go.
There we go. Okay.
A little less conversation, a little more action, please.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
We were talking about the king of rock. There is none higher. And here's the thing. You can love someone's music. You can love someone's art. You can love what they do in history and still call them out for the creepitude. And that's what this show is all about. I will still listen to Elvis Presley at Christmas time. I will still enjoy his music. And Jailhouse Rock is an awesome movie on top of a great song. And I also just want to say thank you guys for joining our Patreon page. Oh my God, Sonia, we had a bunch of people sign up. I'll say it real quickly.
Thank you, friends.
Teddy, Steph, Kathleen, Katie, Shabana, Heather, and Nancy. Thank you guys so much. Sonia and I are planning our next few bonus episodes for you guys. It's going to be really awesome. So thank you so much for signing up. Just go to patreon.com. We have some affordable options. And then, Sonia, do you want to tell them about our website?
Yes, you can go to whatacreeppodcast.com, and it's everything you ever wanted to know about our podcast, but we're afraid to ask. And it's got links to our merch shop where you can get shirts that say "What a Creep," or you can get stuff that says "Not a Creep," or maybe next year.
Exactly.
I'm seeing a lot of our listeners are getting the masks that say maybe next year. I also have one. They're super soft. They're really nice.
And comfy.
I've been very impressed with the quality through Threadless. I really like it. And if you sign up for our Patreon, you will also get a newsletter every month where we talk about like creeps that are coming up, maybe updates on past creeps. It's fun.
Yeah.
You should join.
Absolutely. You could follow us on Facebook. We have a basic Facebook page, but the best thing to do is to join our Facebook group if you're not a total creep. If you are, we will kick you out right away.
Look, yeah, I was going to say, we have rules right there on the page. And if you don't follow the rules, we're going to kick you out.
Yes. So
that's it.
That's it. That's it. And that's the one place Sonia goes on Facebook. She's never on Facebook otherwise. So y'all pay attention to Sonia. So that you go to Facebook and just ask to join the What a Creep podcast group. We also talk about creeps in the news and ideas for future episodes. And especially the people list there, people who aren't creeps. That's always super helpful for us because sometimes that's the hardest part of the show is finding a non-creep. Mm-hmm. So thank you so much. We're on Twitter at CreepPod because somebody had What a Creep for 10 years and never used it.
You creep!
We're on Instagram at What a Creep Podcast, and we have an email, whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. If you would like to get some stickers, we can send them through the mail to you right away. Also, if you have comments and suggestions, a great place to do it is by email. We appreciate that if you could do that. But once again, that's whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. And Sonia, am I forgetting anything? Have we gone through everything?
Oh my gosh, I think that was everything.
We're trying to be quicker about it because some of y'all...
We're trying, but I am a derailer. I'm a notorious derailer at work and in my personal life.
And we're recording a little bit later than usual, so I'm actually having a glass of wine as we go this time. Normally we're teetotalers when we're doing our show, but all the rules are out the window because we're talking about rock and roll, baby.
That's right.
All right.
I'm also drinking, FYI.
An IPA?
It is an IPA. It is very hot here today.
All right. So are you ready to rock?
I'm ready to rock. Let's do it.
Elvis Aaron Presley is one of the biggest rock stars of all time. He was known as the king of rock.
Never heard of him.
Derailer. Beginning with his meteoric rise in the mid-50s to his sad decline in the 70s, Elvis is still one of the most popular celebrities in the world. His estate earned $80 million in 2018. He remains the best-selling solo artist in recorded history. He has had the most songs charting in Billboard magazine's top 40. He has the record for best-selling albums in Billboard Top 100. He holds the record for most gold records of all time as a solo artist, and was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2018. Guess who gave him that one?
Locking up that Elvis vote. Good job.
There have been literally, you guys, dozens of books and movies made about him and his life. John Lennon once said he didn't think the 60s were truly over until Elvis's death. Bob Dylan described hearing Elvis for the first time as feeling as if he were busted out of jail. His sexy on-stage presence set America and the world on fire. The world is filled with Elvis impersonators. Mm-hmm. He was also a major creep when it came to women, yes. with much of his time focused on girls as young as 14. He could also be a mean asshole to his close friends, associates, stage crew, and family. So let's get to it. I just want to say the trigger warnings for this: sexual assault, predatory grooming, and drug use. We have a little bit of help from our friends from Wikipedia, Vice. I wrote the book. I didn't write the book, excuse me. The book, A Southern Life by Joel Williamson. Maybe the wine wasn't a great idea.
No, it's always a good idea.
Elvis Presley, A Careless Love by Peter Garulnik. Elvis and Me by Priscilla Presley. And just so you guys know, if you follow my other podcast, Book versus Movie, we're going to devote an episode to that in November. Elvis and Me by Priscilla Presley and the TV movie, which you can only get a cheap version on YouTube. Ooh. And it's fantastic. Can't wait.
Ooh, when did that come out? I totally remember this, but
I think it's like 1990.
Did it come out?
It's pretty great. There's also the Elvis blog run by Phil Arnold, the original Elvis blogmeister, as he calls himself, and the Daily Mail. All right, are you guys ready? Let's do it. Elvis was born to Gladys and Vernon Presley on January 8th, 1935 in Tupelo, Mississippi. His twin brother Jesse arrived stillborn 35 minutes later. He had a very close relationship with both of his parents, but he described himself mainly as a mama's boy. He felt Jesse's absence throughout his life. It's just one of the traumas. He's had a few traumas. Look, we talk about the good and the bad with these people.
Yes, we do.
His family life was chaotic. His father kept losing jobs and uprooting the family. Vernon actually spent some time in jail for altering a check. Elvis's mother and his grandmother, Minnie Mae Presley, he called her Dodger, completely doted on him.
Dodger.
Because one time he was mad at her. He was like 5 years old and he threw something at her and she ducked to the floor really fast. So he started calling her Dodger. It's actually kind of cute. I think that's cute.
That is cute.
Yeah. When he was 10 years old, he received a guitar for his birthday and he took to it rather quickly. Never had lessons and could never read music. Neither can Paul McCartney, by the way. He also entered a few singing competitions, mainly at churches. He grew up very, Baptist and those kind of churches. He entered a few singing competitions, but was incredibly shy and scared to perform in front of a crowd. His favorite music was gospel, hillbilly, and the blues. By the time he was 16, he would play during lunchtime at the school cafeteria where some boys teased him for being different and girls totally swooned.
Right? Yeah, who cares what those boys think?
Right? He was awkward because he had a bout of acne that lasted for years. I never knew this because he's so beautiful.
Yeah.
In his senior year, he entered a minstrel show. You guys can look that up. It's a very not great thing. But he soon became known as the talented kid with good looks and good taste in music. He also had sideburns before everybody.
Before 90210.
Exactly.
Elvis had sideburns, y'all.
In 1953, he graduated high school and held a few different jobs, which he failed at each time before trying his hand at being a musician full time. He went to the world famous, Sun Records, run by Sam Phillips, who started the careers of Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, Roy Orbison, and Jerry Lee Lewis, who was a past episode of our show. Mm-hmm. He was desperate to be discovered, and he hated the pop tunes at the time, like Pat Boone and Rosemary Clooney. It just was not for him.
Not for him.
Not for him.
Because there's no slight on Rosemary Clooney. She's rad.
Yeah, Pat Boone sucks, but Rosemary Clooney, we love her. We actually talked about her in one of our episodes.
We did.
In a good way. She was a not creep.
Yes.
He wanted to introduce black music to a wider audience, which is what one gets to do when they are white. And he infused it with his country and hillbilly sensibilities. One day he was at Sun Records and he and his friends were goofing around and they played with the blues song. It was called That's All Right, Mama. Elvis started dancing around and playing the guitar and just being really silly. And Sam Phillips could hear, once again, we've said about this other people before, he could hear the sound of money being printed and went right to record him right away. Now, just long story short, Elvis really hits it big pretty damn quickly. He puts out hit records. He tours all over the South with his new sound. But at the same time, the South was heavily segregated. So for a lot of his white audience, they're like, ooh, this is a new sound, this rock and roll.
Yep.
It'd been around. But he brought it out. I mean, he was a great showman. And he caught the eye of music promoter Colonel Tom Parker. He became his manager and basically created a contract that Elvis will be left with extraordinary little amount of money when all the paperwork was done, that the Colonel got most of the money. He will be his own episode one day. So just stick a pin on it for that show. Between 1956 and 58, his popularity rose as he appeared on the Milton Berle Show, Steve Allen Show, and finally the Ed Sullivan Show. And Ed Sullivan thought he was too vulgar and would never have him on.
So crazy to me.
It's insane. They would shoot him from the waist up because he would move his hips around.
Yeah, which he learned from Forrest Gump. I think we all know this, right?
That's right.
Boy, show me that crazy legs you do with that dance.
Show me how you do that dance, kid.
I'm going to do a few Elvis impersonations when I'm here.
I'm into it.
On Sunday, September 9th, 1956, his appearance on Ed Sullivan was watched by over 60 million people. And that made up 82% of the total viewing audience. That's what a big of a deal it was for Ed Sullivan. They couldn't ignore him after that. The girls went freaking crazy for this guy. You look at Elvis then. He's beautiful.
He is.
So handsome and so talented and has so much freaking charisma. And he really wanted to be a movie star too. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
So in 57, he appeared in Jailhouse Rock, a great movie, by the way, if you've never seen it. And he started his much longed for acting career. That was also when he released several hit records, including a Christmas album that is still a bestseller to this day.
I love the Christmas album.
It's the best.
It is.
I mean, I have Johnny Cash. I got other people, but I always go back to Elvis. I don't know why. He just has such a great voice.
He does. And that's a really good album. Let me ask you a question. Here comes the derailer.
Go.
Do you think Elvis is a good actor?
No. God, no.
Eddie Murphy used to have an old stand-up routine where he would say, Elvis was so great that we let him be in movies in which he couldn't act.
I liked his Eddie Murphy talk with Michael Jackson. He just said, not the most masculine man you'll ever meet. That was funny shit in 83, guys.
It really was. But the Elvis stuff was pretty funny. But yeah, those movies are actually really fun, but he's not really an actor.
No,
and that's okay. Because he's playing Elvis. It's fine.
Well, so the following year, he's doing all this stuff. He's getting super famous, and then he gets drafted into the army. And the colonel was like, this is actually a good thing because we're not at war, so you're not going to be in danger, and you're going to look like a patriotic American, because everywhere he went, they said he was vulgar. Mm-hmm. And he was winding up singing gospel songs on some of these shows just so they didn't think he was a total lunatic.
Which is crazy because what he was doing was so by today's standards, it's downright adorable. It's like someone moved his hips around a little bit. So, how naughty. It's so naughty.
He made girls think things. What?
Yeah, because they weren't already thinking things. Sure.
And by the way, Sinatra had done this about 10 years before.
Yes.
So anyway, so while he's stationed in Fort Hood, Texas, and this is so sad, Elvis's mother, Gladys, died of heart failure. It was basically due to alcoholism.
Oh.
And she only started drinking about 20 years before, so she was drinking a lot to get to.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. He was completely devastated. They had to hold him back. He almost fell onto her casket. He was completely distraught. He was then sent to Friedberg, Germany. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm sorry if it's wrong, Germans. His father came along to help him and create a home off base so he had a place to hang out. His dad brought his new girlfriend with him. This was just a few weeks after Gladys died.
Okay.
Elvis was not happy.
Yeah, that's awkward.
It's fucking awkward. And oh, by the way, we curse on the show. We get salty.
Fuck yeah, we do.
while he was in the army, Elvis was introduced to pills for the first time. I can't believe he wasn't introduced to this before, but this is where he swears it happened. He was introduced to taking pills to keep alert while he was on maneuvers, which is such a great thing to think about, like people that are armed on speed.
Super awesome. I feel safer already.
But here's the things Elvis did. He donated his pay to charity. He bought TV sets for all of the bases. He bought extra fatigues for everyone in his outfit.
That's pretty rad.
And he would also, like, people, like my dad knew somebody that was there with Elvis. He's like, yeah, he would pay people to make his bed. And my dad was like, if I had money for somebody to make my bed, I would too. And he says, but he would pay him like $20, which is a lot of money.
Right.
You know, so he was generous.
But all the TVs were showing Elvis movies, right?
Oh, God, wouldn't that be terrible? That would get tedious after a while.
Yeah.
All right, so now on to the creepy stuff, you guys, because we got to do it.
Yeah.
Elvis had a few girlfriends at this point, and he seemed to put them in two categories, the virgins and the whores. He liked dating young teens and would often just, according to him and according to people around him, he would just kiss and make out with them.
Sure.
Right. He preferred to have actual sex with women his own age, but he never hung out with women his own age. He would spend hours and hours and hours with really young girls. And he had a few flings with women more age appropriate, but that was mostly his thing. And it was like 14 was the number. 13 was just a little too young for him. It was 14.
Gosh. That's so crazy to me. 14 is
Young.
so young. So young. Even like people will be like, well, back in the day. I'm like, no, 14 was young then too.
And we'll get into Priscilla in a second, but a lot of people also like this is, I don't know if we've ever talked about this before, but people also say things like, well, girls mature faster than boys. I'm like,
yeah, sure. No.
No.
They do, but still, no.
But no.
We don't play that game here.
No. So back in Hollywood, when Colonel Parker wanted Elvis to take out the big Hollywood starlets of the time, it was all for publicity, right? To get your picture in the papers and shit like that. He had a date when Elvis was 21. He had a date with an 18-year-old Natalie Wood. What is hotter in the world than an 18-year-old Natalie Wood? I mean, she was always gorgeous, but
yeah, she's so beautiful.
So beautiful. She's one of my favorites. Later, she complained to Colonel Parker and his crew. She goes, hey, how come your boss wouldn't do it? She was all hands and no action.
Now, to be fair, I would also say those things.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because he, like you said, gorgeous.
He's so beautiful. He claims one of his things is that his mother like coddled him a lot. You know, if it's not one thing, it's your mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said that was a part of his problem. And also the part was that everybody thought he was a sex symbol, that he'd be really great in bed, and that made him insecure. Like he didn't have to practice like the rest of us, like, right?
I know. It's. I can't believe he even thought about that.
I'm sure it's something he came up with later, but anyway.
I'm sure it is.
The action he preferred was young women. 14 was the lowest age, and one of the things he liked to do is to have the girls get naked and have pillow fights, and then he would just keep his underwear on. So that didn't make it weird. And
that is support. What?
Once again, he swears up and down, and a lot of these girls swear. He made out like crazy. He would make out for hours. He would do everything but, right? Mm-hmm. So he's great at foreplay, apparently, which is it's its own reward. I mean, I'm not knocking foreplay, but at some point, you know, where's the action? Anyway.
Yeah.
But he would have these girls do pillow fights. He would stay up all hours with these girls, like super late at night. It creates intimacy with people at a very young age. Mm-hmm. And it's just weird. And there's a lot of stuff related to Michael Jackson, which we may or may not talk about one day. His fans are insane. So let's just keep it there for now.
Yes.
Also in Hollywood, by the way, he had set up a two-way mirror system up in his home. So his friends, known as the Memphis Mafia, could watch him having sex and playing around with the girls.
Ew.
Yes, he did.
Yuck. Also, what's up with his friends?
Okay, so the Memphis Mafia was a bunch of his buddies from Memphis. They basically devoted themselves to him. And they went with him everywhere he went. He was in Germany, he's in Memphis, he's in Hollywood, he's at Palm Springs, wherever. They went with Elvis. They were paid very generously to be his friend, basically. They laughed at his jokes. They helped him with his speed. They helped him get the girls in and out of the place. And they helped keep the cops and the press away.
And they watched him have sex with girls through a two-way mirror. Sure, that sounds fun.
And if go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, what'd you do last night? Oh, I was over at Elvis's. I was just like watching him bang some chick through a two-way mirror. Would you do? I live my life. What the fuck?
Well, it gets
Who are
even
these people.
It's even more messed up because if Elvis wasn't, it's like a lot. It's what rock stars do or did. If he wasn't interested, he would kind of pass them off to his friends and basically kind of set up like, well, if he likes you, then maybe I will, you know?
Right.
It's really fucked up. And like I said, these girls are young. Like, what do you know about life when you're 14 and it's 1957?
And I didn't grow up in 1957, obviously. I'm old, but not that old. But there was this pressure on women to like find a man and get married. And they're all taught at such a young age that that's the thing to do. So when a rich, handsome man like Elvis is paying attention to you,
you feel
probably
special.
don't know. Yeah, you feel special. You probably don't know how to say no. And you're like, oh, good. I'm making it happen a little earlier than usual, but that's fine.
Yeah, well, it makes me think about things because, let me talk about Priscilla. She's born the same year as my mom. She was Priscilla Bayou, was born May 24th, 1945, into a military family. At 13, she was living in Austin, Texas, and she was known as the most beautiful girl in her class. Around that time, and this is Priscilla's story. This is her truth, okay? When I'm speaking for Priscilla, this is her truth. I honor her truth. But she said when she was about 13, she found out that her father was actually her stepfather and that her birth father died a couple of months after she was born in the war. And her mom remarried like a couple of years later. It upset her so much because she didn't look like her other siblings. Like she kind of always felt a little different from them.
Right.
That she became more rebellious. When the Bayous, when he was transferred to Germany, Priscilla was like, oh God, if this happens and I got to move to Germany, here I am in Texas where, in Austin, where it's beautiful weather. I'm the best looking girl. I have like everything going for me. And then she hated Germany. It's cold. She didn't know the language. But anyway, she goes there and here it gets creepy. Wait, like it wasn't creepy already.
Yeah.
So one day Priscilla's hanging out at a local club that's for servicemen and their families, and it's after school, and she's with her 10-year-old brother. She is 14. According to Priscilla, a 27-year-old man named Curry Grant introduced himself to her.
Curry Grant?
Currie.
Okay.
I don't know what that's short for.
Yeah.
Asshole. It's idiot for asshole. Wait till you hear this guy. He was a married airman, and he was friends with Elvis. He asked if she wanted to meet the king. And basically, he was one of the guys that Elvis asked for him to procure young girls for him for his party pad off base. Curry turns out to be a total fucking loser on top of everything. He's just a scum.
Yeah.
He asked if she wanted to meet Elvis, and she's like, duh, yeah. What 14-year-old girl in 1957, 58 is going to say no? Right. And she's there with her brother, like having a soda, like her 10-year-old brother. He says, okay, I will pick you up and I'll take you there. And she says, well, where is it? It's like an hour away or something. And he goes, I'll pick you up like at 8 o'clock. She says, well, no, I have a curfew. And he's like, he's like, okay, let me meet your parents and talk to them. And I'll explain everything. And I'll have you home in time for your curfew, which was 11 p.m. Priscilla's 14. Elvis is 24. So Curry manages to talk the parents into letting her do it. And I think they all still felt guilty and bad because of the things she found out and moving to Germany, and she was lonely. So I think they were like, throw her a bone. Like, okay, let her do a thing. Meet her
also,
idol. It's Elvis. I mean, I would.
Yeah. You'd
be a monster to not let your kid at least like say hi, right?
Yeah.
So Elvis liked her right off the bat, because a lot of her reminded him of his mother. She was petite, she had dark hair and blue eyes, and she was really, really sweet and quiet. So after talking to a few people, he basically takes her upstairs into his bedroom. She winds up staying really late. She doesn't get home till 1:30 in the morning, which in my house would have been, forget it.
Mm-hmm. This would have never happened to me, but
I mean, it never would happen to me either, but I remember just like my parents with curfews, they were like super like 50s about it. Like, you're going to be home by this time.
Here's me asking about extending my curfew. Mom, Dad, I'm going to see Aliens again for the like 20th time, and it starts at 10 p.m. So I'm going to be later than usual. And they're like, goodbye, nerd. Goodbye. That's me staying out past curfew.
This is also going back to Priscilla. Soon after this, she's basically staying there every night for about 6 months. She is 14. She is a freshman in high school.
That is so crazy.
Which is fucking crazy. She swears up and down and sideways. They fooled around, but she remained a virgin. He would not have sex with her totally because he wanted her to stay a virgin, because he liked her too much. Which is already like, okay, but still, he's messing with her boundaries. I mean, that's just, that's like not okay. When a friend asked him why he wanted someone so young, he says, because he can train her up any way I want.
Yep. That he's not even lying.
No.
Like he said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, he said, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Elvis was, by the way, living with a woman who was his secretary, like a nighttime girlfriend who provided him companionship. Here's the thing with Elvis. Especially after his mother died, he couldn't be alone. He had a voracious appetite for sex. He was constantly juggling women. And her name was Elizabeth Stefaniak. She also said she was 19. She was really old.
So old, 19. Jeez. Nice grandma you got going there, Elvis.
So she was like his secretary and had kept his schedule. And then her job was when Elvis did have sex with a lot of women from the town, like they were, older, like, really old, like 20-year-olds or something. But when he was done having sex with them, he would knock 3 times. And I realize now that's a song, Tony Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
But he would knock 3 times on the wall. She was in the room next door. She would come in and then lay next to him for the rest of the night after he just had sex in that bed with somebody else.
Oh my gosh.
And one of
That's a job.
Well, one of the authors, like, I'm sure she could smell the perfume from the woman. Like, I'm
Right.
sure she could smell and feel a lot of things on that side of the bed. Like, are you kidding me? All right. Maybe I'm too gross. Okay.
No, I was just,
No.
I'll go there. I don't care. He's like, hey, like, spoon me and sleep in this wet spot.
Yeah, exactly. Such an asshole.
Such an asshole. Only an asshole makes you sleep in the wet spot.
Ladies,
Also,
Gentlemen,
we're dirty.
keep that
we're
in mind.
dirty on the show.
Yes.
We're dirty on this show. Sorry, everyone. Not sorry.
not sorry. Years later, Cary Grant would claim that 14-year-old Priscilla was a sex pot who, along with her mother, had designs on Elvis on getting Priscilla to become famous as a star. So that's why her parents never objected to their freshman daughter staying out all night. In her book, she describes having a really super close relationship with him, but that he was very controlling. That is her truth. Mm-hmm. Curry has said some really salacious things about Priscilla. And there's another book that I'm not going to mention the title of, but the author is basically like, yeah, she was kind of a tramp and she already been through a lot of guys and stuff.
No.
Right.
We don't do that with 14-year-olds. Come on. That's ridiculous.
It's really gross. Lots of people, I was saying here, lots of people try to take her apart for her story. I'm not going to do that. That's her truth. And I have no reason not to believe her.
Mm-hmm.
1960, Elvis is discharged, and back into the U.S. to pick up where his career left off. And he splits his time between Memphis and Hollywood, where he makes a string of mostly forgettable movies and music. This is not his creative peak, but he's successful. And he's still famous, and he still has plenty of opportunity with ladies. Some of them are even his age.
What?
He had affairs with Anne Margaret and Juliet Prowse, like two really gorgeous ladies.
Oh my gosh, so gorgeous.
He supposedly said Anne Margaret was the love of his life, and he really wanted to marry her. And if you ever seen them together dancing, like their chemistry is hot.
Mm-hmm.
But Colonel Parker was like, nah, she's not famous enough. You know, she's not big enough to take you off the market. So he did whatever the Colonel said.
That's sad.
Well, also at the same time, though, he was dating a 14-year-old named Sandy Farah, who claims also they never had sex, but they made out all the time, and he picked her clothes for her. One time she showed up at his place, and she wore, she was into that Mary Tyler Moore look, like the cute pantsuit kind of thing with the kicky pants and the heels. No, ma'am. He did not like that.
Oh.
He wound up not talking to her for 2 hours and sent her home.
Because she wore pants, huh?
She wore pants. She had the nerve to wear pants. So that's when she got the message like, oh, he doesn't want me wearing pants, so I'm always going to wear dresses. And guess who she wound up marrying?
I don't know. I got nothing. Colonel Parker.
Wink Martindale. Do you remember him? In America, he's a game show host. Look him up. He's very cheesy.
Yes, very cheesy.
But they were married a really long time. And she
Aww.
said, like, oh, no, it was great. He was Elvis. But, okay, whatever.
I just couldn't wear pants. It's fine. Whatever.
So Sandy said they went out for a while, and then at one point he asked her parents if he could move her to Graceland, where he would raise her and make sure she goes to school.
That's an awesome way to talk about your girlfriend.
Her parents said nah, and the relationship was over.
Good job, parents.
Good job, parents, right there.
That's some solid parenting.
He also had a series of teen girlfriends who met secretly at his home in LA and Palm Springs. Once again, he had cameras and two-way mirrors in both of those places. He set it up, and anyone who showed up that didn't interest him, he just passed them off to the Memphis Mafia.
Wouldn't that be child pornography?
Fucking A. It's gross, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Just throwing that out there.
Yep. In 1962, he invited Priscilla to live at Memphis at Graceland while she attended her senior year at a local Catholic school. She was almost 18, so her parents let her go. Over the 2 years that Elvis was gone and she went to visit him once for Christmas, and then she came back and she had like a beehive haircut, a hairdo, and messed up makeup, and her parents were just furious. Like he took her to Vegas or something. She was like really old by that time, like 16 or 17.
You're so old.
But she wrote him letters. She said she wrote him letters every single day. He only responded sporadically, but he always said he loved her and that she was special. And he also told her to ignore all of the gossip about him fooling around.
Mm-hmm. Don't believe your eyes.
Don't use your good sense. Your
Don't
common
trust your
sense.
gut.
Don't trust your gut.
Don't trust your gut.
In Memphis, he starts to groom her into the ideal image of a woman. And for him, that meant big teased hair, heavy eyeliner. I love eyeliner, so I don't judge that. And, of course, always wear a dress. She's also starting to take pills to stay awake during school because she's up late at night with him every night playing sex games without sex. That's according to her.
That sounds boring.
It's full on role play. Like she wears her Catholic girl uniform and shows up, you know, the nurse's uniform. Elvis takes videos of her. He takes videos of her with other women.
Oh.
There's, once again, two-way mirrors. So his pals are watching him and Priscilla.
I would be terrified. Is she not terrified that those things are out there somewhere?
She's so young. And like, who knows what, nowadays I always think about like every single picture in my life I'm like super terrified about. But but a lot of what they did, like they took videos. So the video would come out. It wasn't like broadcast on a satellite. And his whole thing was he took Polaroid photos. So they had the pictures with them. They weren't on film. But poor Priscilla said she had to go in town and like buy Polaroid every day. And so she had to like go to different places so they didn't know, like, because they took that many pictures. And when he eventually died, spoiler, they found a bunch of this in his attic. And
That's so good. The idea of sex games without sex. I'm like, that's
sounds boring, right?
so boring.
It sounds so tedious. And especially like she's at a point in her life like, okay, I'm ready to like, let's go. And he won't do it. Supposedly. Okay. That's her.
Right.
That's her truth. That's what she says. And I can see that.
We're going to read all these cookbooks and we're never going to bake a cake that you can eat.
That's a good point, right?
Boring.
Let me see. Oh, so this goes on until 1967 when Elvis is actually, there's starting to be mentions in the press about Elvis having a drug issue because he's taking a lot of pills to stay up, to go back to bed, that kind of thing. And Colonel Tom Parker's like, you know what? You need to get married. And that's going to change your image. That's what you need because his films aren't doing as well. He hadn't had a hit in years. Colonel says, propose to somebody. So he does to Priscilla in 1966 at Christmas. And by the following May, they're married in Las Vegas. And her hair is so close to God, it's ridiculous.
So how old is she? 18 at this point?
She's 22.
Okay.
But she says, this is her truth, she was a virgin until their wedding night. And then that wedding night was great. She got pregnant during her honeymoon.
All right.
Lisa Marie was born February 1st, 1968. Now, despite marriage and Lisa Marie, Elvis is still miserable. Like I said, his movies aren't doing well. He hasn't had a decent hit in a while. And he just feels left out because there's the Beatles, there's James Brown, there's the Rolling Stones. He felt super uncool, which was like death to him. Right? So he decides to take a gamble and create a nighttime TV special. It was supposed to be a holiday special, December of 68. And Elvis started training to get into shape again. He got kind of fat and a little whatever. He decided at some point creating this special, like, you know what? I'm going to lose the weight. I'm going to fit into my black leathers again. And I'm just going to play my old hits. And I'm going to have a crowd around me, like singing in the round. And it's just going to be me and the music. And that's all it's going to be. This show was such a big hit. It was like a 60 share with the audience. And if you see Elvis 1968 special, look it up for yourselves. It's the precursor to MTV Unplugged. It's great.
Yeah.
He looks amazing. He's never been better looking. He's gorgeous. And it was the big comeback that he wanted. And he said to his Colonel Parker, he's like, from now on, I'm not going to record any music that I'm not proud of. Well, sadly, his addictions start to take over. And the next 10 years are just really up and down. He records some great music, but he's still taking a lot of pills. And he's also starting to play with guns, and he's super paranoid. He decided one day, 1970, I think I'm going to meet with Richard Nixon in the White House.
So, God.
He decided no appointment, by the way. Elvis just showed the fuck up with
Sure,
his gun.
he's Elvis.
And he was
He's
armed. He had a gun on him. And Nixon was smart enough to be like, well, I think the kids think this guy is cool. Let's take a picture. Who gives a shit? Elvis, by the way, there's no irony here. He really thought that drugs prescribed by doctors were okay.
Well, there's still a lot of people that think that stuff.
That's true. And he was never a big drinker because of what happened to his mom. So he thought he was fine. Then he started his Vegas act. He started wearing the sparkly jumpsuits. There's all the pageantry, glory, glory, hallelujah. Like he had a whole section. And the weight gain.
Yeah.
And he just became this really weird version of himself. And he had, like, once again, tremendous great press. And like things like Rolling Stone magazine, which was cool at the time, and other things were just like, oh my God. And he put out really good music, like Suspicious Minds is a good song. Burnin' Love, Hunka Hunka Burnin' Love. Oh,
I love those songs.
But his stage show was just so over the top that his young fans were completely turned off. And so it was just like the old ladies showing up. He and Priscilla divorced in 1973, and he continued to see women constantly, but they were usually about 20 years old at this point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You know, 20, they're practically old.
So here's this is sad. August 16th, 1977, his body was just so run down that he died of a heart attack in his bathroom of all places.
So sad. What a way to go.
What a way to go. In his bathroom, over the toilet. Like he just fell forward. He's buried in the meditation garden at Graceland, which I don't know why that makes me giggle, but I don't know if you remember when Elvis died, but I think my family was on vacation and my dad would always get the newspapers early in the morning and then bring them back when we would, wherever we would go. And he and my mom were reading about this and they were so bummed out. And I couldn't understand because they never played his music.
Right.
They didn't talk about his whatever. But because to me, he was like, well, that fat guy in a jumpsuit. Like,
right.
Yeah. Like, why is everyone so bummed out here? I think about it now, like, oh my God, he was only 42.
My God. It's so crazy to me that he was only 42.
And he was.
To me, I was like, he was like old, right? He
like
was
50.
He's so old. He's like 22. No, he's so old. In my head, I was like, he's much older than that. 42, so young.
It's so young. And if he had bothered to take care of himself, but he ate like all these fatty foods and he took a shitload of drugs. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But it was like when, and this is like, there's similarities here, but when Michael Jackson died, a part of me was super sad because I remember when Michael, Michael was young, Thriller, Off the Wall. Like I was trying to explain it to a friend of mine, like, because to her, he was always the crazy guy. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. It's just sort of like, oh.
There's a part of your
childhood.
Part of your childhood. We talk about this a lot on the show and especially on the What a Creep Facebook group about separating the art from the artist and separating the bad things they did, the creepy things they did with like your own memories. Like the Beatles, Elvis for like my parents is like Michael Jackson was for me. Like I grew up listening to Michael Jackson. I have a lot of memories associated with that music. It doesn't mean that music is ruined, but it's also important to know who makes the stuff you love.
I remember running home from school, like running up, it was the top of a hill, running home to watch MTV to see Beat It or to see Thriller.
Oh, totally. Or see, oh my God, Thriller was every hour on the hour.
Yeah, that's what they used to. And it was huge. I mean, it was just, you had to wait because we didn't have a VCR. We had to wait for it. Like it had to exist in real time. So I get it now. At the time, I thought my parents were crazy, but now I'm like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. That tracks.
But if you think about Elvis, there wasn't social media, there wasn't the internet, there wasn't all these, like the fact that he was so into pills, so into young girls, this wasn't something that people knew. Like your parents were probably legit super bummed that someone they grew up listening to died. They don't know all these shitty things about him.
My parents never would read like the National Enquirer or anything like that. They wouldn't touch that stuff. Like I told you, they're like NPR nerds. Like they wouldn't even have a clue. Well, so what happens as soon as Elvis dies, and he's 42, let's remember, all the news media starts going, well, what the hell happened? I mean, that's so young. And there have been several biographies, several is not a good word. I mean, there's hundreds.
Right.
And
so many,
and it started like a year after he died. Like the Memphis Mafia, one by one, they started releasing one, and everybody has their story to tell. They just get more and more salacious, and I think it just because over the years we can handle more and more information. We're no longer shocked when we're like, oh, that person had a drug habit or whatever. It's at the time it was a big deal for Elvis to be like that. But there's all kinds of terrible behavior that we learn about him, once again, little by little over the years. And I want to say, we never call someone a creep because they have an addiction issue. Mm-mm. That's a disease. We don't call that, doesn't make you a creep. We just call out people on bad behavior. And so let me just finish by saying just a few things Elvis did over the years. In 1954, he was having sex with a girl. An actual girl, probably like 18, and the condom broke. Elvis was in such a panic that he took her to the hospital and left her there to deal with it. And he just said, give her a douche or something, and then went back. Just left this girl.
Dude.
Yeah. In 1954, by the way, he had a 15-year-old girlfriend named Dixie Locke. He was 22, and he called her all the fucking time. Where is she? What is she up to today? What are you wearing? Like, super controlling of Dixie. Here's another one. When Priscilla was pregnant with Lisa Marie, he no longer took interest in having sex with her. So according to Priscilla, she waits 8 years, whatever, to have sex with him. They finally do. She finds out she's pregnant, then he's turned off by her.
That sucks. Did she try sex games?
I'm the naughty pregnant schoolgirl.
I'm naughty. So naughty.
I'm going to be lactating soon.
That sucks.
He sucks even more. He asked for a separation when she was 7 months along.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, fuck him. They both had affairs during their relationships. Not a big shock, but it was big for Priscilla, you know.
Right.
But, you know, her husband hadn't touched her since they got married.
That sucks.
It sucks. It's so horrible to do somebody's self-esteem. So they both had affairs, and they kind of didn't talk about it. But then he found out that one of her boyfriends was a karate champion, and Elvis was a huge karate geek, and he'd been studying since the army. That actually made him upset. And then Priscilla wrote, she told him about the affair. She said, Elvis then forcefully made love to her because that is how forcefully. Mm-hmm. Because that is how a real man makes love to his woman. He raped her.
Yeah. Shit.
He's such a shitty person. I'm sorry, guys. I mean, like his music. The music's fine. Okay?
Yeah.
In 1976, he's 41. He started seeing a 14-year-old named Rika Smith.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
But she says he never took advantage of her. After Rika, he started seeing a 21-year-old beauty queen named Ginger Alden. And they got engaged, and she moved right into Graceland. And she said in her memoir that she was always scared because he played with guns all the time, and he was on pills. So sometimes he's on downers, sometimes he's on uppers, but he was getting more and more paranoid. One night, he was getting really heavy. He was gaining a lot of weight, and he was in a yogurt kick.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
Okay. So they're in bed together. He goes, get me a yogurt. And she's like, go to sleep. You had enough today. She wakes up a few hours later to the sound of a gunshot, and it's Elvis firing a .57 Magnum at a young boy that was chasing Lisa Marie with a water gun.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So Lisa Marie's just like playing with her friend in the yard, and her dad's like shooting out the window.
Jesus Christ.
Elvis liked to shoot things, including televisions, which freaked out the Memphis Mafia. He would get mad at a football game and just shoot the fuck out of a TV screen.
That is insane, dude. Get a remote.
Or get some therapy. And then he had to, would have to like get rid of the TV. And TVs back then were enormous and heavy. Like it was like a piece of furniture that you had to carry. It was a big deal to get a TV. You know, it was like they were heavy. Yeah. So they'd have to get another one. They always looked like an idiot. Going back to 1956, if we can, Jacksonville, Florida. Elvis noticed a 14-year-old, Jackie Rowland, in the audience with her mom. They were both invited backstage, and her mom's like, oh, that's cool. You know, my kid's a fan. I'll take him. As soon as Elvis met her and her mom, he said something to the mother and grabbed Jackie and took her into another room. So her mom was like, bullshit, and started like forcing herself around the Memphis Mafia and had kind of like fight them off. And she gets into a room, and Elvis is in there making out with her daughter like she was a grown-up. And her mother's fucking furious, like grabbed her kid and says, we're out of here. Now Elvis whispered to Jackie, when you grow up, you are going to be mine.
Ugh. Gross.
In 1975, he rejected he felt rejected by a girlfriend of James Caan. He was like hitting on this woman, and he was feeling pretty sore about it. So he's on stage. He's kind of in a bad mood. And for some reason, one night, he introduced his backup singers, who were called the Sweet Inspirations, and they happened to be African American. He said to the audience, these are the Sweet Inspirations. The young ladies have been staying out in the sun a little bit too long, haven't they?
What the fuck? Oh, my God. What an asshole.
And then at another performance, he said to the audience, I don't know about you guys, but I smell catfish when I'm around them. Which, if you guys don't know, in the South, because my mother's had Southern family, catfish is kind of considered the cheap fish. It's a huge insult to say catfish about a person. It's a whole thing. Trust me.
Ass. Fuck him.
Yeah.
What a piece of shit.
Yeah. The Colonel actually tried to get him to apologize this time, but Elvis absolutely refused. And one of Elvis's big things was he never had to apologize for anything.
Of course not. That's the worst thing you could possibly do.
Exactly. So that's another thing he did. And I'll just finish it up with this. In the end, he was set to go on a tour of the Northeast. He was going to head to Maine, of all places.
He'll be safe there.
With his jumpsuit and shit.
Yeah.
His doctor was Dr. Nick Nicolopoulos. He was famous for like a doctor that people
my
with Dr.
gosh.
Shop. Remember this guy? Or it just reminds you of The Simpsons.
Have
Yes.
Dr. Nick. Hi, everybody.
He was somebody,
Dr. Nick.
celebrities would pay this guy to just find pills for them.
Oh, my gosh.
And if you were a rock star or musician, actor, he would go on set for you. He would go on tour with you and charge thousands a day. And this is the 70s. It's a lot of money. The day before Elvis died, he was going to be gone for 10 days, and Dr. Nick couldn't go with him. So he just gave his pills ahead of time. He gave him over 680 pills.
Jesus Christ.
For 10 days. It included Percodan, Quaaludes, and Dexedrine.
Jesus.
So I don't think he ever had a shot. I mean, it just...
Mm-mm.
And that, my friends, is the story of this week's creep, Elvis Presley.
Good job, Margot. What a fucking creep.
It's just crazy when you read about him. It's just... Yeah. I mean, it's salacious, but it all happened. I mean, he just got away with so much. He was so famous. He was white. He was good looking. He was considered cool for a long time. He just got away with shit.
Yeah. I also wonder, do you think back then you just trusted people more?
Oh, absolutely. You trusted people more. I mean, even like 30 years ago.
It's so crazy to me. And then I also wanted to mention, I thought this was so interesting. Lisa Marie, of course, Lisa Marie Presley eventually married Michael Jackson. And Michael Jackson came up so much in this episode. I can't help but wonder if there's something there that just reminds her
I don't
of
know.
her dad.
And then she was also married to Nick Cage, who has an Elvis obsession.
Oh, yeah.
I feel
That's
terrible for her.
right.
I feel terrible for her. Her son died.
That's sad.
And they just buried him at Graceland recently. But yeah, I can't imagine. She was so young when her parents split up, and she had to be with her dad, and he was just probably was in a crazy state of mind. And you love your dad. I mean, even if with the fuck up, you love them. And she looks so much like him.
Oh my God, it's so crazy. She could play Elvis in a movie.
I think at this point everybody has. I mean, I have my favorites. Do you remember there was a TV series called Elvis at Young or something like that? It was Elvis Presley. It was the guy who was in Hairspray, right? He was the boyfriend of Tracy.
Yeah.
Super handsome. And they made Elvis seem like he was such a sweet little hick boy. Like, oh, he just loved his mama and singing. Like, that was Elvis back then. Fuck no, guys.
No. It was on from February 6th to May 19th, 1990.
Oh, my God. Did you watch it too?
No, I just looked it up.
Oh, okay.
I was just because I was like, I totally remember this was the thing.
Yeah, they were good shows, but like I think about it now, I'm like, it's total bullshit. Like there's no, exactly. Yeah. Never mind.
There's also a TV movie with Kurt Russell, right?
There's Kurt Russell played Elvis. There's a few famous. There's David Keith.
That's right.
He played him in a movie with the guy Charlie from 18 Again, the original with George Burns, and he played Ferris Bueller in the TV movie. There's Elvis has been in a lot of movies. He's a very interesting character. Who wouldn't want to play Elvis? But
so before every actor in Hollywood wanted to play the Joker, they wanted to play Elvis.
Yeah, they still do, I'm sure. Yeah, Quentin Tarantino's version of Elvis is going to be so much like, oh, he couldn't help it.
It's going to be gross.
Yeah, it will be.
Do you want to hear about someone who's not a creep?
Yes, please. Let's go.
Oh, Okay, so someone who was quite popular at the same time as Elvis is a singer named Brenda Lee. And Brenda Lee sings rockabilly, pop, and country music. She had 47 hits during the 60s, and she's really only surpassed by Elvis, the Beatles, and Ray Charles.
Holy shit.
I know. She is known for her 1960 hit, I'm Sorry. So if you probably have heard that, it's like, I'm sorry, so sorry. And then 1958's Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, which is a total classic. And she was 13.
Oh my God.
13 when she recorded that song.
And I love that song. I like Christmas music. I don't care what anybody says. I love Christmas music.
I do too. You and I are the same.
Yep.
She is only 4 feet 9 inches tall. She's quite little. And she received the nickname Little Miss Dynamite in 1957 after she recorded a song called Dynamite. She was 12. She's one of the earliest pop stars to have a major international following. She is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Country Music Hall of Fame, and the Rockabilly Hall of Fame. And she's the only woman to be inducted into both the Rock and Roll and Country Music Hall of Fame, which I think is fucking bananas. She also received a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. Taylor Swift is a huge fan and covered some of her songs. And then there's a book that came out last year, maybe a couple years ago, called Woman Walk the Line. And it's this book of personal essays about the most influential women in country music. And Taylor Swift wrote one about Brenda Lee. And Dolly Parton said, Brenda is one of the greatest entertainers ever, but I think I like her mostly because she's the only person I know that I'm taller than. And honestly, the reason I picked her for Not a Creep is because she was a child star. She seems very well adjusted. I don't know how, she's had a long, stable, drama-free career. I don't know how she did it. She grew up in poverty. Her father died when she was super young, and then she became this international star. This is all before 18. And she met a man named Ronnie Shacklet when they were both 18. Both of legal age, my friend. They were both 18. She met him at a Bo Diddley and Jackie Wilson concert in November 1962.
Holy shit, how good was that show?
I know. They got married 6 months later. They are still married. They have 2 daughters and 3 grandchildren. They live in Nashville, Tennessee. And she is, by all accounts, a really good person, almost like an unofficial mayor of Nashville. Everyone in Nashville knows her. She'll be eating at the Cheesecake Factory, and people will be like, excuse me, will you sign this for me? And she'll always sign autographs. And she's also this huge fan of all these people that she used to perform with. So she has all these photos of her when she performed with Elvis, or years later, apparently she toured at one point with Jerry Lee Lewis, and then she called him years later and was like, I never got your autograph, and got his autograph. She collects all these things like a fan, which I think is so funny. And she continues to perform, and she says that her life now is just a regular day, that she has kids and grandkids and a husband and a house, and that she'll wake up early and do chores and fix lunch for her husband and play with her grandkids.
Oh
and
my God.
And she has an 86-pound rescue dog that they call Little Girl.
I'm done.
And that's our creep, or not a creep, Brenda Lee.
That's amazing, Sonia. I that's my favorite. Rocking Around the Christmas Tree in the holidays.
Yeah.
Forget it.
It's so good. I had no idea she was 13 when she originally did that song. That's insane to me. Her voice, she doesn't sound, because at 13 you're thinking it's going to be rocking around the Christmas tree, the Chipmunks or something, and it's not. She sounds like a woman. It's creepy.
But it's awesome at the same time.
But no, I love that song so much. It is a really good song.
I forgot to mention that there's a band, I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but when I was going to San Jose State in the 90s, there was a band called Dred Zeppelin.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So if you guys aren't familiar, it's this group that combines reggae music with Elvis and Led Zeppelin. and they mix it all together. It's one of my favorite shows I ever saw in college. And the guy that was the lead was Tortelvis, and he was this big Elvis impersonator type. He would sing, and they would like I said, they would mix up like Heartbreaker with Heartbreak Hotel.
Yeah.
And then his whole thing was like he would shoot his fingers into the audience like guns, like Elvis would do, and then you would shoot him back. It was bananas. But I was listening to Dred Zeppelin the other day, and it so made me smile. It's so goofy and wonderful. Yeah. So I would definitely recommend you guys, if you've never heard of Dred Zeppelin,
Look them up.
look them up.
Have you ever seen an Elvis impersonator?
Oh, yeah. I live in New York, so there's all kinds of impersonators, like in Times Square and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never gone to a show.
No, I've never gone to a show either, but I've definitely been out here in San Francisco, and you'll run into an Elvis impersonator, and I'm like, what the heck is happening? I don't understand. But they're just chilling. They're just walking around, like singing their Elvis songs on the corner. I'm like, sure, why not?
Is it Honeymoon in Vegas with Nick Cage and all the
Yes.
Elvis impersonators? You know, the little one is that there's a little kid. That's Bruno Mars.
I didn't know that.
I just read that the other day.
That is so interesting. There's so many movies where people were being an Elvis impersonator is a thing. There's also like 3,000 Miles to Graceland with Kurt Russell again.
And Kevin Costner.
And Kevin Costner.
And The Firm. The Firm, that Holly Hunter's husband is an Elvis impersonator.
I totally forgot that. Oh my gosh. It's a whole thing. I'm going to endorse people's skills for that on LinkedIn. Yeah. You're an Elvis impersonator, Margot. I'm going to LinkedIn right after this.
I dare you. Okay, here it is. Ready?
Priscilla, go get me a peanut butter banana sandwich.
No, that's not good. I'll work on it.
I think it's pretty good.
Priscilla?
Also, I would like a peanut butter and banana sandwich now. Thanks.
Like raisin bread? Oh, that sounds so good.
I know. Damn you, Elvis!
He's not perfect, you guys. It's okay to call people out on their bullshit. You can still enjoy the music. That's the whole point.
Exactly. Don't get upset.
Cool your jets, everybody. All right, so that's the end of this episode. Please follow us on all the things, and especially if you use Twitter. If you use the Annie Potts GIF of we got one from Ghostbusters. Somebody else posted something actually recently. I want to remember which one had what a creep, but I can't remember what it is now. I'll remember it next time. It was either on Facebook or on Twitter. Somebody posted something. I'm like, God damn it, we should learn that one. But anyway, we're on Twitter at CreepPod. Join the Facebook group. Send us an email, whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. If you could leave us a 5-star review in iTunes, if you listen on Apple Podcasts, that would be totally amazing. And it would help us with all the trolls that try to leave us 1 stars and get all upset with us. So if you could do that.
I don't like ladies. 1 star.
Somebody call us Karens, for God's sakes. Really?
I know. 2 Karens, 1 point of view, 1 star.
All right. So, Sonia, where can they find you?
You can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter and Instagram, where I post photos of beer and bread. Margot, where can people find you?
I forgot to mention about Dorking Out. That's our other show. If you like the sound of our voices, we have a show called Dorking Out, where we dork out mostly about movies. Our next movie is going to be Death Becomes Her. I'm super psyched to talk about that.
I'm glad we're doing a horror comedy. That's going to be super, super October.
Super October. So follow us there for Dorking Out. And you could find me at Brooklyn Fit Chick, mostly for Twitter and Instagram. And my blog is brooklynfitchick.com. Excuse me. And we will be back next week with a new creep. We're in season 8, Sonia. And I don't know about you. I keep moving my list around, like what I'm going to cover next.
I know. I'm not. Don't actually name anybody because I might change it.
Yes.
Until then.
Thank you for listening to us talk about creeps. You can follow us at What a Creep Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
But don't follow us too closely.
You can email us your creepy stories at whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com.
But please keep your dick pics to yourself.